and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things that it takes to be a professional musician, aside from actually playing your instrument. I think I'm feeling a bit silly today. But anyway, today I wanted to talk about something that I really hold close to my heart, because I feel like this is something that I really struggled with for the longest time, and I think it's part of the human existence, which is fine. It is what it is, but I figured that this could help someone else, so I thought, why not share it? So it's this concept of developing your own inner compass, because it's tough. It's tough. I feel like a lot of us are very good at looking to other people to measure our success, and whether that is to do with asking for kind of validation directly or indirectly, waiting for people to kind of go, well, aren't you wonderful, aren't you great? And whether that's in person, maybe that's on social media, looking for likes or comments or followers or whatever else, or whether it's more asking other people what you should be doing, for instance, in your career, in your life, and letting other people guide you, because and rather than looking to yourself of what should I be doing, could I be doing, why am I doing it, you're looking to someone else and you're being informed by their own set of beliefs, values, and what guides them, essentially. So, and their biases and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I say, this is something that I definitely, and again, I think it's just human nature to look to those outside of you for kind of like validation in what you're doing, or if you're doing a good job. And sometimes, it's useful feedback if you don't know what a good job looks like. But equally, it can be quite detrimental if people are saying negative things or giving you negative feedback, or just feedback generally. But if that's not in line with what you're aiming at, that can be detrimental, in that it will make you possibly focus on things that aren't going to move the needle for you, but and maybe are not even important to you, but are important in someone else's eyes, if that makes sense. I don't know whether this is making any sense to you right now, so I thought I would just jump into this and just sort of talk about personally how I would develop, or how I have, I suppose, developed my own inner compass. And when I realized that my self-worth, for instance, this is just one example, because there are multiple examples of me, over the years, where I've looked at other people for my value. I would not recommend it, not even slightly, but me and a friend of mine, Jonathan Atkinson, I always remember the moment that we were sitting down having a coffee and we loved putting the world to rights. We were on tour with, I want to say it was with Kim Wilde at that time. And we went for this coffee, and I just remember we were sitting down, and just this realization that we both had, that our sense of worth was strongly linked to whether the phone was ringing and whether people were asking us to play for them. And let me tell you, if you want a recipe for really bad self-worth and self-confidence and self-esteem, that is it. And it's not even about it being bad, it's about it being volatile and not being very sustainable. Definitely not sustainable. Quite the opposite, in fact, and leads to major issues, which I hadn't realized that the impact of that belief. And Jonathan kind of felt the same, that he had exactly the same outlook, which is why, I mean, me and him get on very well, because we have a lot of similar ways. We have a lot of similar ways of seeing things and experiencing things, so we have a lot of touch points. But anyway, I just remember us both sitting there going, oh my God, like, that's not good. It's like, oh no, yeah, you're right, that's really not good. And yeah, so anyway, it was from that point that I kind of like started venturing into, in fact, it must have been not Kim at all, it must have been someone else, because that's when I started thinking about kind of really delving into creating my own thing and trying to take back a little bit of autonomy, because I really was feeling at the mercy of other people in terms of my own self-worth. I didn't realize the extent of that until I started having therapy fairly recently, actually. It's pretty wild. Because it's not just work-wise, it's life-wise. I think it's very normal to look to other people to help guide you, but it can be very difficult. But I'll tell you what's even more difficult, but definitely more beneficial, not more beneficial, more beneficial. I'm gonna put my flag in the ground. That is looking to yourself for your own kind of inner compass, is what I'm calling it, to help guide you to where you need to be or want to be. And I think the very crux of this, and again, I talk to students so much about this, like this idea of why they're doing things, like what's the goal here. And I think that is the first thing to kind of like recognize, because I think the question, or defining what is success to you, is the single most important thing that you can reflect upon, because everyone has different goals. And you may think that, you have the same goals as say you're a drummer and you see another drummer playing on some massive stage with a huge artist, and you're like, I want the same thing as them. I want to be on that stage with that artist. Now, that's fine. That might not actually be their goal. And what you're seeing is a byproduct of something else. Actually, what their goal might be is putting food on the table for their family. They happen to be on a giant stage, and that's wonderful, but that's not the goal. And I think that finding your own personal kind of drives and all that sort of stuff is really, really, it's not even just beneficial, it is essential, I feel. And by that, I also mean going deeper than, let's say, you see someone on Instagram who has 100,000 followers, and you're like, I want 100,000 followers. That is success to me. Okay, why? Why is that success to you? What is it? Is it that you want adoration? You want visibility? You want acknowledgement? Okay, you can get that in so many different ways, and I feel that if you can get that same thing from within, that's actually much more beneficial, because that person that's got 100,000 followers, that might not be success to them, like having 100,000 followers. However, what it affords them is being able to work with this person, that person, the other, or it affords them the ability to go and do drum clinics around the world. That's actually what they want. They want to actually tour the world doing drum clinics. That is actually their goal. It's not the followers. The followers are kind of superfluous. They're kind of just a byproduct of what the actual goal is, because things like follower count, likes, when I tell you, it literally doesn't mean anything unless it's for a purpose. Because what's the point of likes for likes' sake? I understand that we all like to have some sort of acknowledgement, and human nature, we can be insecure people, I know I can, definitely, and it's nice, have a few likes here and there. Well, that's a nice feeling. But why is there a deeper goal of like, the likes are the likes, whatever, but what I'm actually aiming at is XYZ. So I think defining that success, but also calling out yourself, like, is this self-indulgent, or is this, like, what is the bigger picture? What is the reason? Let's say you did get 100,000 followers on your Instagram. What does that mean? What comes after that? Like, when you hit that number, what does the rest of your life look like? Because that is actually more important. Like, likes don't actually mean anything. Even if it's that you want to become, an influencer or whatever, let's say that. And that's a perfectly fine goal if that's what you want to do. But what does that mean? Why? What does that afford you in the rest of your life? And again, if it's just something like validation from external people, first of all, again, I'm going to plant my flag. That's a dangerous mindset to have, because it makes you very susceptible to unhealthy mental health. Not sure that's a thing, but your mental health will suffer, because if you're not getting those likes, or the likes go down, or you lose a couple of followers, if that is directly linked to your self-worth, Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a dangerous game. That is playing with fire. I really wouldn't recommend it. What I would recommend is maybe going chatting to a professional and working on your own self-worth from within, because that is essential. At the end of the day, you can lose everything in this world. Things change, and none of us truly have control over anything. But if at the end of the day you're left with yourself, and if you can't sit with that, I would say that's a problem. Not a problem, but it's going to make your life a little more difficult. Let's say that. It can make things a lot harder. And if you kind of like are able to use your own inner compass as your guide, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying not looking to other people for maybe input or advice or whatever, but you know in yourself what you're aiming at, so you can then pick and choose what you take. It's like people that I was talking to someone the other day about this. In fact, it's been a not a constant topic, but we keep touching back to this, me and this person, where I am so afraid of people that follow singular people, like completely devoutly, like as in everything they say they take as gospel. They will just blindly follow. And there are problematic people all over the place all the time, always have been. They're a little more visible now, I think. But what they were saying is, okay, yes, I agree with what you're saying, don't follow blindly, but everyone has something of value to give. And if you're able to pick and choose that, then that's great. I think you can always learn something from someone. And I'm like, okay, in principle, yes. But I think there are some very dangerous people out there that, even just a little bit of their thoughts, I guess that's my own fear. I don't know. I know that I have been the person who obsessively, if I find someone that I like their ideas, in the past, I have obsessively looked into everything that they believe. And I have admittedly, tried a lot of the stuff that they may have suggested, and not listened to my own physical reactions to things that told me this isn't for you. And it's nothing like nefarious or anything. It's just, just things that didn't work for me, didn't work for my personality, didn't work for my energy levels, actually made me unwell sometimes, not great. But I think coming back to what this dude was saying, it's like, it's more about what he's saying is, be informed by your inner compass. But I think if you're not even aware of what your inner compass is saying, then that's difficult. So anyway, let me try and actually become a little more coherent. So the first thing that I would do to kind of develop that inner compass, so that you can pick and choose what you kind of like see online or when you speak to people or whatever else, is defining what is success to you. And I think that this should be redefined for me, like every year or two, sometimes even more frequently, to be honest, depending on how many things are changing at any one time, because sometimes many things change at once. But so for instance, it's so funny now that I look back, my goals, my idea of success from the age of 14 to about 27 was the same, which is wild that a 27-year-old's idea of success is the same as what a 14-year-old's is. That's not okay to me. That is absolutely ludicrous. It changed slightly, but the overall thing definitely was the same, the vibe. Whereas now I kind of, when things don't feel quite right for whatever reason, I will go, right, let me just recenter and realize what is success to me. So when I was 14 up until 27, and 27 is a rough idea. I don't actually know the exact time it was, but my idea of success was being called to go on the road, to go on tour. That was it. That was success to me. And that was, for many reasons, that was my goal. And I would hit that goal. I would go on tour, but inevitably the tour would end. I'd come off tour and I would be a failure again because I was not being successful because no one was calling. And it was this horrible back and forth, awful. Then what it became about for me was kind of like creating an element to my career that I had control over. And that was opening up emilydrums.com, my remote recording business. And that was wonderful. That was really, really good. And that kind of made me start reflecting more regularly on what is success to me, because it became about working and earning my living from the studio when I was off the road, and I sort of hit that goal. But then it was like, okay, success is now the quality of people that I'm working with, because sometimes inevitably there would be people not quite in the realm of where I wanted to be playing genre-wise, or maybe they were difficult clients or whatever, or maybe any number of reasons. So it became more about defining that. Then it became about quality of life for me, because I was and have for a very long time working too much. I was burning myself out. So it was about having more balance between home life and work life, which arguably still working on. And now, I suppose now it's a similar thing. For me right now, it's about choice, balance, flexibility to choose what I'm working with, who I'm working with. Also, the freedom of movement, because, I've had a studio for such a long time. I still do, as you can see, but this house is for sale, and I'm taking it as an opportunity to explore the possibility of being a little more free and not tied down to a studio, and see what that looks like. It's kind of exploration, I suppose. But as long as I'm able to sort of cover my bills, then I'm happy. That's kind of where I'm at the moment, and having a balance, because at the moment I do actually have a balance of home life and work life. And I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but it feels quite healthy and I'm quite scared, but it's nice. It's different. It's a different thing. But anyway, my idea of success has changed basically. But I will talk about more music based, because obviously I know that the majority of people listening to me right now are musicians. You want to be doing it professionally, or you are doing it professionally, but maybe you're in that yo-yoing stage of like working and then not working, and then working and then not working, the phone ringing and then the phone not ringing, and it's like it's a tumultuous roller coaster, unsustainable way of living mentally and physically and financially. It's difficult. So the first thing I would say is just define what is success to you, and then everything else, all the other decisions will be made around that, if that makes sense. All the other actions will be made around that. And if, let's say, if you do have a goal of like, I want 100,000 followers, for instance, which is fine. I'm not saying that is no better than any other goal. I'm not saying that, but what I would like is for you to go further. Okay, why? What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, for me, a balanced, let's go back to being on the road. Okay, so I want to be on the road on tour all the time. So what does that mean? That means that I am earning a living playing drums. Okay, and what else does that mean? That also means that I don't need to be at home and I can run away. This is what I realized. I didn't like the life that I was living. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. I was essentially trying to run away from myself for years and years and years, and distracting myself for years and years and years. And very simply, I just was not able to sit with my own thoughts, my own emotions, and anything that negative that was going on inside of me, I would run away from physically. I would try mentally, obviously. I would physically run away on tour. But inevitably, when the noise stopped, literally and figuratively, and I would come off the road and the phone wasn't ringing, all I was left with was me. And that's when deep depression would set in and all this sort of stuff. So that was kind of, and again, this was more retrospective that I realized that why do I want to be on the road all the time? Why do I want to be busy? Okay, there's the financial thing of earning a living doing what you love. I love that. That's wonderful. I think there's merit to that. Maybe there isn't. Maybe that's a whole nother coping mechanism. I don't know. But a large part of it was because I wasn't. Why do I want that? Because I'm running away from myself, because I'm not able to sit with my own thoughts and feelings, which I'm getting better at now. It's only taken many years. But anyway, I think it's better to ask the wider question of, okay, and why is that important? And why is that important? And why is that important? Until you get down to the crux of what it is. And essentially, for me, a lot of the time, it was because I didn't feel good enough as a human. But that's another story for another time and an ongoing process. Much better now, much better. And so, yeah, what is success to you? Define it. And again, this is something that could be redefined at any time. So please don't feel that once you've decided something, it's set in stone. It's all an exploration. That's how I see it. And it's like, right, get to the next milestone, maybe, or aim towards it at least. But as you go, just reassess. Like, okay, am I actually happy where I'm going with this? Is this what I anticipated it would be? Am I happy doing this? Is it making me feel more human and fulfilled? Or do I want to slightly adjust my trajectory? You know what I mean? Like, that's fine too. You don't need to just go, right, this is my life's purpose and that's it, because that also can lead to problems. So there needs to be an element of flexibility, and I think actually that element of flexibility is the thing that will make you successful, because we all need to be adaptable. I think that is the way to survive this industry. From my limited experience, I am but one person. I have seen my own career trajectory, I have seen other people's, and yeah, I think adaptability is very important, as is diversification, all that sort of stuff. That's what I believe, at least. Just my 2 cents on it. So the second thing that I do once you've defined what this thing of what is success is, find a way to measure it. So what does that mean? Oh my goodness, it means so much. So obviously, when you're doing something creative, it can be very, very difficult to kind of measure creativity. That's nigh on impossible. However, I think it's fair to assume that if you do certain actions, the results that come from it are more likely to lead you to success. So for instance, I was talking about this in the last episode. If you want to be on the road playing with named artists, or you want to be full-time playing on the road, right, going on tour, logic would state that to do that, you need to be in contact with a lot of musicians, you need to be out playing a lot, you need to be at a certain level of playing, obviously, and yeah, you just need to be busy meeting new people, getting in new situations all of the time, or as much as possible within reason without killing yourself. Kind of talking to myself, my former self here. And so how would you measure that? Well, let's talk about okay, going out to jam nights, for instance. Okay, how would you measure that? It wouldn't be about measuring how successful you were at jam nights, because I think that's very difficult to pinpoint. However, if you decided, I am going to go out to one jam session a week, that is a way to measure it. And if you've done that, tick, you win. If it is, I will play 3 gigs a week, and whether that's covers, whether that's originals, doesn't matter, whatever. If you do that, tick, you win. That is another one off your list. If you want to go more into the side of the ability to, and in fact, I would actually tack this on to at least the latter situation of playing gigs. But if you want to make sure that you're on track in terms of your goals of your ability level, I would, and I always say this, record yourself and listen back in everything that you do. And sorry, not just even listen back, but watch back as well. This is the thing. So I came up with a thing. Well, it's not a thing because it's already a thing. But here's my version of the thing. And it's what I call the feedback formula. And it's the gig sandwich. Now, there is another version of this which involves swearing. And I always said to myself, I would endeavor to never swear on this podcast so that kids can listen to it, right? And I think I've upheld my side of the bargain. I'm pretty certain I have. Like, I'm 99.999% sure that I have. So there's another version of this that uses a swear word. I'm going to call it the gig sandwich. And what it is after each gig that you've done, or recording session, or even practice session that you've recorded yourself and you listen back, because it's human nature to focus on the things that are not done well, the negatives, anything to improve upon. That is an absolute given. It's how we're hardwired. It's an evolutionary thing, apparently, and that is what it is, right? I accept that. I'm wired that way. I'm sure that you are too. But this kind of acknowledges that, but it circumvents it. So after everything that you listen back to, I would suggest maybe you could pinpoint something that you feel is good within that performance or that recording or whatever else, something that needs improvement, and then another thing that is good. So you have two good things and something that could do with a bit of improvement in the middle. And what this will do is not only will it build your confidence in the things that you're doing well, it will also give you a physical thing to work on, which is great. But most importantly, it's making you look inside as to what you deem is important, because what is important to one musician is not important to another. You may be working on something very specific that if someone else listened to it, they might pick out something completely different, and it could absolutely blindside you and sidetrack you onto focusing on this other thing that someone else feels is important, but actually it's not going to move the needle in terms of where you're wanting to go. And I'll make no bones about it, maybe you do need to work on that other thing, but if you're focusing on one specific thing, focus on the one thing, get that right, and then move on to the next thing. There will always be multiple things that you want to work on, but focus on one thing. That's my advice. That way it's kind of like you're not overwhelmed, you can chip away at it, and you don't need to do all the things at once. Plus you can't do all the things at once. It's not viable. You will kill yourself trying to get everything perfect. Let me tell you, nobody's perfect. You shouldn't be perfect. You should be human. You should always be striving to be better and whatever else, because there's always something to work on for sure. But I think it's sort of like looking to yourself is it's not even that it's valuable, it's invaluable. And again, I'm not saying don't listen to any input from the outside, but I think start with your own input and your own inner compass, and then go from there. If you then want some input in terms of, I'm not sure what I should be working on, like ask for advice, sit and then look inside. When someone suggests something, in the same way, whenever I do in my podcast, right? If that sits with you and you go, yeah, that makes sense, great, go with it. If it hits you in a way that you're like, oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable in a kind of in a way that it doesn't feel coherent with you, don't do it. Or maybe you can explore it, but I wouldn't suggest it. Like, go with your gut. I don't know why I'm up here. Go with your gut. That's what I will be doing. That's what I try to do all of the time now. It's something that I went against a lot when I was younger, because I thought I should be doing what other people expected of me. And look, I benefited from it in some respects, but let me tell you, I was miserable. I was in these situations where on paper they looked wonderful, but on the inside I was dying. I could feel myself dying. I can't explain the pain that I was in so often, and having to put on this smiley face like everything's great, everything's fine, this is wonderful, how lucky am I, but in the inside I was like, I hate this, I hate every second of it, I don't want to be here, what the hell am I doing here? It was awful. Whereas now I feel so much more fulfilled. There's still hard days, there's still moments I'm going, oh my god, I hate this, but on the inside I'm going, yeah, but you're in the right place, it's what needs to get done, and that's it. There is so much peace to be had with that. And as I say, this idea of kind of finding something good in what you're doing, finding something to improve upon, and then something else that is good, it kind of gives you that foundation. And think of it like a brick. And the more that you do that, the more bricks that you have to build that solid foundation and from within, which it's just everything. I can't stress enough how freeing that is, to be honest. Like, it's freeing. And as I say, sometimes it goes deeper than that, and sometimes it may be that talking to a professional therapist or whatever, or however you want to deal with it, might be beneficial for you. As I say, I'm very open about the fact that I have therapy. I've had therapy since I was 20. Started out with CBT, which I found very useful at the time. Not useful to me now. I've been doing talking therapy for the last 18 months. Oh my god, it's changed my life. I am the most me that I have ever been, and the most comfortable in my own skin that I've ever been. I still feel uncomfortable often, but I kind of explore it versus run away from it like I did before, running away on tour. Yeah, and anyway, this is another subject for another time. You didn't ask me about my therapy. In fairness, you didn't ask me nothing. I always am just chatting. So I appreciate that you just sit there and you do listen. And I hope that there is nodding going on and not you going, oh my God, here we go again. But the fourth and final sort of thing that I will say about this also is find a way to record your progress towards the goals that you have. And I'm not talking just about this whole recording yourself and listening back. Yes, that is within the goal. But what I would say is like find a way to record your start point so that then you can sort of like refer back to it to see how far you've come, because inevitably there will be moments that you're like, this isn't working. I feel like I haven't made any progress. I feel really hopeless right now. All those things. That is a completely natural and normal way to have those moments, like normal way to react and feel when you're striving towards something. You will never always feel like you're doing a great job and you're moving forward and everything's great. No, absolutely not. Quite the reverse. But if you have something that you can reference back to literally of, let's say, hypothetically, day one of you deciding that you're going to do this thing, and you found a way to record where you're at that very moment, and whether that be you playing to a very particular song that kind of encapsulates maybe a style that you're trying to learn. Maybe it's that, maybe it's you literally talking on camera about something that you're going through or you're aiming towards, or where you're at in that moment, like, right, this is where I want to be, but right now this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm doing, or something along those lines. So find a way to literally document where you're at the very beginning of your journey, so that then you can sort of refer back. And I've done this. I'm continually doing this, actually. I think I've spoken about this before. So there is this there's one specific album. I may have mentioned what it is before, but I'm going to choose not to today because I'm going to be all mysterious, because why not? So there is one particular album that upon first hearing it, I fell in love with it, and I could not even slightly play along to this album in a convincing way, should we say. It just wasn't in my bones. It just wasn't. I didn't have the experience. I hadn't worked on it. I loved it. I wanted to play like that, but I just couldn't. And when I tell you, it has been, oh geez, I think it's been 20 years. So periodically I would go back to recording this, and let me just say up front, I did not record my first time playing to this because it wasn't something that I did at the time. I didn't know it was a thing. It's just is what it is. But I remember how I felt about it, and I remember the feeling of, it wasn't even listening back, but trying to play to it, and that feeling of like, oh God, I really can't do this. This makes me feel like I can't play drums at all. And I periodically come back to it, and I came back to it maybe 6 months ago. And I played to one of the songs on the album, and I was like, I'm doing the thing. And I hadn't necessarily purposefully worked on it for a long, long time, but it was just a byproduct of what I had been doing. And I was so happy. I'm still so happy. And maybe next time I go back to it, it will be even better, hopefully. I mean, maybe I should actually actively work on it, then it would actually be better for sure. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on the situation in terms of the importance of developing your inner compass and looking to yourself as to whether you're doing a good job or not. And again, I'm not saying don't listen to others around you when it's beneficial, and, you know, ask for feedback for sure. And sometimes that's really hard as well. I find that very difficult. But I think starting from where you want to be from the inside is just really, and learning how to do that, learning how to listen to yourself is so beneficial. So just to recap quickly, so first of all, define what success is to you. I think that if you only do one thing, that is going to be the most important thing. Then find a way to measure your own level of success, or your journey towards that success. Then use some sort of feedback formula, like the gig sandwich. So something good, something to improve upon, and then something else good. and then find a way to record your progress and record yourself from, or document, I should say, document the like where you are right now. Like, honestly, truthfully, it's going to be horrible, can I just say? If you've got a big enough goal, it's going to be hard. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But when you come back to it, you'll be like, wow, look how much I've grown. And again, I spoke about this in a few episodes ago. Look at my very first camera piece that I have on YouTube. There's stuff that I did before. Oh my God, I've just realized. So I have this box of keepsakes, right? And I went into it yesterday, and I found a video of me. So I had braces. So I reckon I was probably 15, maybe 16, probably 15. And I did this series, very short series on, I want to say, was it CBBC, like Children's BBC or something like that? Maybe it was even, was it Blue Peter? I don't think it was Blue Peter. Anyway, it's called Tips and Tricks, and it was on every day for a week, and it was like little 3-minute episodes of teaching people how to play drums for the first time who have never even picked up sticks. And I need to digitize it. So it's a VHS. I need to digitize it. I think I'm going to put it up online. Now, if I look, I have not seen that video. In fact, I don't think I ever watched it, to be honest. But if I look back at that to where I am now, the growth, the growth. But if you want to look on YouTube, there is one, in fact there's many, to camera pieces from 9 years ago. And you will see, like, I can look back at that and go, wow, that is growth. I am still horrendously awkward and embarrassed about that. And it makes me feel awful sometimes when I watch it. I'm like, ugh, gross. But I'm proud of myself where I'm at now. Like, definitely, 100%. But again, it's just lucky that I documented that. And again, like I say, I have this other documentation of me talking to camera, teaching from when I was 15. That is going to be awful, like awful. And I've got to share it. I need to try and do that soon at some point. But yes, anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you on that note. Good luck finding your own inner compass. The way that I would suggest is, for me, the time that I find those moments of, like, what is success, what do I really want, what are my goals, la 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 la, is walking in the woods, or just walking in nature in silence, or driving in silence. Movement, that's my key. Movement is very important to me. But so yeah, maybe try that. Or some people are happy just sitting silently, closing their eyes. I find that very difficult, very difficult. I need to occupy my body so my mind can just run. Yeah, if I'm sat still for too long, even saying it's like, oh, yeah, it doesn't work for me. I will keep trying though, because I'm sure that there's benefits to that. But anyway, I'm going to go. I think I just spat. I hope you're having a lovely day, wherever you are, whatever you're up to. If you enjoyed this episode, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do over on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Emily Drums, that's patreon.com/Emily Drums. And if you want to come and connect with me, find out any other little kind of nuggets of things that I'm thinking about or whatever else, you can do over on Instagram. If you look me up at Hey Emily Drums, at Hey Emily Drums, then yeah, come say hi. And yeah, I shall see you next week for another episode. Who knows what it'll be. All right, have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. All right, bye.